They had the money. They had the engineers. They had decades of trust, built model by model, generation by generation. A name that moved cars on every continent without a single explanation. They had the dealerships, the government relationships, the logistics networks capable of shipping 500,000 vehicles across the globe without breaking a sweat. They had the infrastructure, they had the data, they had every conceivable advantage a company could carry into the most important automotive shift in 100 years. They spent billions preparing for the electric revolution, billions more positioning themselves as the future. They launched campaigns, they filled entire convention halls, they made promises on stages in front of thousands of analysts who wrote reports that reached millions of investors who moved markets based on those words. And still, they failed. While Toyota absorbed that failure in China, watching the BZ4X become a masterclass in what happens when legacy engineering meets a market that's already moved on, something different was happening somewhere else. Not a factory, not a test track, a software campus. And the people inside weren't thinking about horsepower or paint finish. They were thinking about what a car actually is, once you strip away everything the old industry said it needed to be. They were thinking about the operating system, the neural architecture. What happens when the machine that moves you through the world becomes an extension of the machine you carry in your pocket, not through a cable, not through an app, but at the architecture level, at the DNA level. And that's where the industry starts losing control. The car they built together looks, at first glance, exactly like what you'd expect. A sedan. Long hood, smooth roofline, 4 doors. It measures 4.93 meters, wide 1.87 meters, low enough at a height of 1.47 meters that you feel it means something when it moves. On the surface, it reads like a polished premium effort from a joint venture trying to win back credibility in a market that's already left on. That's the narrative they want you to accept. It's clean, it's comfortable, it's the story that lets the competition sleep at night. And that's exactly where the trap is. Start with the drivetrain, because before you can understand what this car is, you need to understand what Huawei built inside it, and why nothing the traditional industry has produced even comes close. The system is called Drive One. It's not a motor, it's not a powertrain, it's a compressed universe of engineering. Electric motor, reducer, transmission, inverter, power control unit, and onboard charger collapsed into a single integrated piece. One machine, 6 functions, the weight of one. The base configuration produces between 207 and 220 kilowatts, around 300 horsepower. Rear-wheel drive, 0 to 60 in roughly 6 seconds. Those numbers are about to mean very little once you hear what comes next.
The reason the numbers don't tell the full story is thermal efficiency. Every electric motor in production today bleeds energy as heat. That's the physics every manufacturer accepts as the cost of doing business. Huawei refused that cost. The thermal management system inside Drive One recovers that energy instead of bleeding it into the air. The result is real-world range that doesn't match the spec sheet, it beats it. The battery chemistry is LFP, lithium iron phosphate, in configurations from 75 to 90 kilowatt hours, depending on trim. Under China's CLTC cycle, the car claims over 700 kilometers of range. In real-world conditions, you're looking at 500 to 550 kilometers. Battery supply comes from CATL and BYD, 2 of the 3 most important battery manufacturers on the planet, feeding a single car. Now, look up. Above the windshield, flush with the roofline, sits a LiDAR unit, laser detection, real-time 3-dimensional environmental mapping, not a camera interpreting what it sees, not radar bouncing signals and estimating distances, a system that builds a live model of the world around the vehicle and uses that model to make decisions at machine speed. This isn't a feature, it's the foundation of an entirely different philosophy about what a car should do. A camera tells you how something looks, a LiDAR tells you exactly where it is, its dimensions, its distance, its velocity, with a precision that human vision can't reach and camera-based systems can only approximate. Legacy manufacturers have spent years debating whether LiDAR is necessary, whether it's cost-effective, whether the market is ready. The market already answered. The software layer is where this car stops being a car and starts being something the industry doesn't have a category for yet. HarmonyOS, Huawei's operating system, not a customized version of Android, not a licensed interface from a third party, but a native ecosystem built by one of the most sophisticated tech companies in the world. And what it enables inside this vehicle is categorically different from anything European or American manufacturers have ever shipped. The voice assistant doesn't accept commands, it understands context. Tell it you're cold, hungry, and want pizza, and it adjusts the cabin temperature and routes you to the nearest pizza place. No menus, no sequential inputs. One sentence, one response. The machine interprets intent, not syntax. When you get into the car mid-video call, that call migrates automatically to the vehicle's display. No touching, no confirming. The car detects you, facial recognition, active on entry, and loads your seat position, mirror angles, climate preference, and music. The environment reconfigures around you before you've even buckled in. This is where the gap becomes uncomfortable. Because what Huawei built isn't technology integrated into a car. They turned the car into a node inside a personal ecosystem. The vehicle doesn't serve transportation, it serves continuity. Your life doesn't pause when you drive. It continues at the same resolution with the same intelligence through the same interface, just moving at highway speed. Now compare. One does infotainment, the other runs an operating system. One does voice control, the other understands natural language. One displays a menu, the other reads your context and acts.
The BYD Han is a serious car. Luxurious interior, blade battery technology, real-world range, genuine engineering credibility. On paper, it looks like a fair fight. But one asks you to adapt to it, the other, running HarmonyOS, adapts to you. At that point, it's not competition anymore. This isn't a comparison, it's a generational gap. This car doesn't compete, it replaces. Look at what the design choices reveal. The front lighting bar runs the full width of the vehicle, a single continuous LED band that makes the face of this car unmistakable in any condition. The taillights mirror that, ultra-thin, connected, deliberate. The door handles are flush and retractable, not a styling choice, a functional one. Every surface that doesn't need to break airflow doesn't. This is a car designed by people who understood that aerodynamics, software, and powertrain aren't separate engineering problems. They're the same engineering problem. And every design decision serves the answer, or it has no place on the car. And this is where the industry loses control of the narrative. Now, put this in a North American context. In a market where Toyota already owns the infrastructure, the trust, and the service network, where Chinese EVs are steadily gaining ground, where the electric transition is no longer a question of if, but whom and by whom. A vehicle positioned between Chinese electric rivals and German luxury sedans, carrying Toyota's reliability reputation over a Huawei technology stack, arrives in territory that has never seen exactly this combination. Not the technology, not the partnership, not the positioning. The 500+ kilometers of real-world range removes the practical objection. The HarmonyOS ecosystem removes the technology objection. The Toyota badge removes the trust objection, and that changes the entire game. Go back to the beginning. A company with every advantage, billions invested, engineers mobilized, promises made, and a market in China that watched the BZ4X arrive and walked away. That failure wasn't about the motor, it wasn't about the battery. It was about understanding what a consumer in 2024 expects from a premium vehicle and showing up with an answer built for 2018. It was about treating software as a feature when the market had already decided software is the product. It was about building in isolation when the only way to build competitively was to partner with whoever had already solved the problems you were still debating.
The BZ7 is Toyota's answer to its own failure.
Not a defensive answer, not a compromise, a radical recalibration, built with the partner that today understands the connected vehicle better than any other company in the world. The industry spent 30 years saying a car was defined by its engine, the last 10 redefining that around the battery. The next 10 will be decided by whoever controls the software layer, the operating system, the ecosystem, the interface between the driver and the machine. Toyota knew it couldn't win that war alone, so it didn't fight alone. You're not choosing a car, you're choosing which era you belong to. Legacy manufacturers are still designing around what you expect. The challengers are designing around what you don't know you need yet. And somewhere inside that tension, inside a 4.93-meter sedan built in China by a Japanese company with the brain of a Chinese tech giant, there's a vehicle that refuses to be categorized by any framework the old industry built. The problem isn't that this car arrived. The problem is that you're still looking backward.